一体何をしていたんだい？危ないから休校になっているのに。
How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos Child. Monsters are roaming the streets and killing people, which is very unlike Chaos Child. And I don't know, I cannot stress that enough. It's very weird. Like, I know Chaos Child, and, you know, it has chaos in the title and all that lovely jazz, but it's just not the same type of chaos that we're used to seeing, and it's just so weird. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a fever dream, I guess you could say. Just a fever dream of a chapter, if you will. But anyways, we're chilling here at the school. We're really not supposed to be here, and it looks like our advisor, or whatever you want to call him for the club, is here checking up on us. Now, how to talk my way out of this. There is no point in telling Wakui the truth. As I tried to figure out the best way, Kazuki walked back to the computer and booted up ESO2 again. Wakui stared at her suspiciously for a moment.
もしかしてゲームしてたの？
Kazuki nodded without looking away from the screen.
なんだ、そんな理由か。まったくのんきだな。人が亡くなっているっていうのに。
外をほっつき歩くよりは学校内にいた方が安全では。
それを言うなら渋谷から出た方がいいんじゃないかな。
僕は宮下公園に住んでますから。
ああ、そうだっけ。他に頼れるところはないの？親戚とか。
I don't know if we could actually, like, straight up tell him this conversation was pointless. I'd known Wakui since I started the newspaper club. Had I never told him I didn't have any relatives?
まあね、君たちの気持ちもわかるんだよ。
え？
いや、渋谷に戒厳令が敷かれたような状況になってるでしょ。こんなことをなかなか経験できることじゃないからね。危険だと分かっていても、ついその危険の中に飛び込みたくなる気持ちっていうのかな。若気の至りと言っちゃそこまでなんだけどさ。
Yeah, definitely.
でも、僕はその若気の至りというやつを否定するつもりはないんだ。おや、どうしてって顔しているね。言っておくが、僕だって君たちみたいに若かった頃があるんだよ。
I hadn't been confused, though don't worry, I am. I'd been bored. It felt like this was going to take a while. And he was totally trying to pull off the teacher who understands his students act. There's nothing wrong with that, Mr. Wakui. But you're wasting your time trying to understand me and Kazuki right now.
若者というのはどんな時代だって大人や社会に対して反抗的でいたいものさ。事実、戦後数十年はそういう若者たちで溢れていたわけだし、ちょうど僕の親ぐらいの世代からかな、おとなしくなっちゃったのは。物分かりが良すぎるんだよね、特に僕ら以降の世代って。
はあ。
You guys ever watch Grave of the Fireflies? I wasn't sure how to respond to this. What was the best way to get rid of this guy? I couldn't let him find out that Kazuki and I were staying in the same room, which meant that ideally I wanted to leave the school without him. My phone started to vibrate in my pocket. Wakui was still talking, but I took it out anyway as a sign that I wasn't interested in hearing what he had to say. Damn, poor guy. I had a message. It was from Kazuki. From Kazuki? I looked up. Kazuki was still playing ESO2 with her back to me, but when I looked carefully, I saw that she was holding her smartphone with the hand that wasn't holding the mouse. Why would she send me a text message if I was standing right in front of her? It was always so hard to tell what Kazuki was thinking. Or maybe there was something important that she couldn't tell me because Wakui was here. Anyway, I looked at the message.
宮代くん、どうかした？
ああ、いえ。
そう？ならいいけど。
Wait, what did the text message say?
つまりね、
Wakui was still talking. Was he always this talkative? My heart was pounding loud and fast. My mind still couldn't process it. I couldn't believe what I just saw in that text message. I took another look at it, being careful not to let Wakui see. Message from Nightheart, Mr. Wakui is an assassin from the committee. Huh? Wait a minute, what the fuck? The committee would be the Committee of 300 that Nightheart had been talking about, right? Their assassin was Wakui, the language teacher, the guy who was rambling on in front of me.
ところで、なんだっけ宮代くんたちが調べていた事件って。
え？
ほら、そこのボードに貼ってあるやつだよ。何かわかった？
Should I believe him or not? Damn, dude, are all the adult characters besides Shinjo in this game, like, just not trusting? Like, can you not trust them at all? Do they not have any value there? Nightheart had said that the Committee of 300 might take action, but he hadn't told me why. What were they after? If he was an assassin, were they trying to kill me and Kazuki? Did they not like what was happening in Shibuya right now? Of course, no one would like it. Not just the committee. But killing us wouldn't make things better. Did the committee not know that? But if I told them, would they really just leave me alone? Or was there another reason they wanted to kill us? I didn't know. There was no way for me to know. It was all just guesses. What was Nightheart, or what Nightheart had said even true anyway? Sorry. Did the Committee of 300 really exist? Look, I mean, if Okabe is going to spew nonsense, and some of that nonsense is about the Committee of 300, I think they exist. Where did he find out? How? What was his source? I'm pretty sure he, like, went up against them directly. I think. I can't say for certain. Looking back, it was hard to say if he was even on our side. Kazuki seemed to trust him, though. Was it possible that Nightheart was the real assassin? If I wanted to be really skeptical, I couldn't even be sure that Nightheart had contacted Kazuki just now. There was a chance that she was lying to me. I didn't know why, but there was a chance she might be trying to make me think Wakui was a bad guy. There were all sorts of things to doubt. I was so confused. What should I believe in? Who? Who should I believe? Who was I supposed to believe?
おーい、宮代くん?
Hearing my name called shook me out of the trance. Evidently, I'd been lost in thought.
顔、青くないかい?
ああ、いえ。
What are we talking about again?
事件のことですか?
そうそう。いろいろ無茶して調べてたんでしょ?
Get ready to impale him with your sword if he does any freaky shit. Kazuki looked over her shoulder at me. When I saw the little bit of fear in her eyes, I made my decision. And that's right. Whether or not I could trust Nightheart, there was no way I couldn't trust Kazuki. She wasn't the type of person who could lie to someone. Or so we say. And it didn't make a lot of sense for Wakui to be here right now. He was the type of person who'd go out of his way to avoid trouble. Would he really put himself in danger by coming to Shibuya just because a parent had called?
だいぶ前にクルス君から軽く愚痴られたよ。宮代君がちっとも言うことを聞いてくれないから顧問として指導してくれってね。
はあ。
Well, that's a lie. But then why was Wakui rambling on like this? If he was an assassin, wouldn't he just try to kill us? They wouldn't send a complete amateur. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to distract us or delay us from doing something, but what would that be? He should be capable of killing us. I realized I was more nervous than I thought, but I couldn't let it show. If Wakui found out, I was finished.
いや、僕もね、学生の頃に世界各地で起きている戦争やらテロ事件なんかを見聞きしていろいろ考えたんだよ。それでバックパッカーとして旅に出たりしてね。いわゆる自分探しの旅ってやつかな。
意外ですね。
I need to go on one of those at some point.
だろう
I'll probably
僕
die
もあの
though.
頃は若かったな。
What could be the reason that Wakui was still talking about all this? I could eliminate the possibility that Nightheart was wrong. If he was, then I'd be fine. It would be safer to assume the worst case. Possibility number 1. He was trying to drag out the conversation to learn something from us. His target might just be me, or it might be Kazuki. What if he wasn't sure who it was yet? Perhaps he was the only one, or he was only after the person who created the portal device, and he wasn't sure if that was me or Kazuki. Possibility number 2, he was hesitant. He was our club advisor after all. It was possible that he felt some kind of sympathy for us. No, there was no chance of that.
でも僕としては宮代くんの味方をしてあげたんだよ。クルスくんの言い分もよくわかるんだけどね。やっぱりほら、僕も宮代くんと同じく男だから。
Was he just waiting for us to fall into some trap? Or was he just not worried because he didn't know, or he didn't think we knew who he was? I sent a quick message back to Kazuki. We're going to run.
男子として共感しちゃったわけ。
それ単にあれこれ指導するのが面倒だったとかじゃないんですか？
失礼だな。ま、実際のところは君の言う通りなんだけどね。
Immediately an answer came from Kazuki. How? With our legs? For now I just wanted to get out of this room. And get away from Wakui too if I could manage it.
ただ、あんまりやんちゃをするのは良くないな。
え？
君たちはまだ学生なんだからね。法に触れるようなことをしたら将来を棒に振ってしまう。
ああ、取材の話か。
ん？
いえ別にやましいことは何もしてないし。
That scared me. I thought he was talking about something else. The next thing I knew, my throat was parched. I gulped down the entire Mountain View I'd just bought from a vending machine earlier. Of course we did. Of course. This was looking bad. Both Kazuki and I were powerless. Not entirely. Aren't we supposed to be gigalomaniacs? There was basically no chance of both of us getting away. I might have to pick the better of two bad choices. It was my one hope for avoiding the worst possible outcome.
なあ、カズキ。
Kazuki jerked upward when I spoke to her. She slowly, fearfully turned around. She was so nervous her movements were stiff. Come on, act natural.
飲み物を買ってきてくれないか。ちょうどなくなっちゃって。
っていうか宮代くんさ、まだここにいるつもり？これでも僕君たちを連れて帰らなきゃならない立場なんだけどな。
でも涌井先生の話もうちょっと聞きたいんで。
え、本当？それは嬉しいな。最近の生徒ってさ、僕の昔話なんて鬱陶しがるばかりでね。
Yeah, this guy's an assassin, alright, sure.
なんなら新聞部で記事にしましょうか。涌井先生特集。
いやいや、そんなの照れちゃうよ。
Unless he's trying to pull our leg here. I was shocked to find that I was speaking as well as say Ito.
和樹ももうしばらくゲームをしていたいだろう。
Kazuki stood up, uncertain.
付き合ってやるから、その代わり自販機でジュース買ってきてよ。
I took a coin out of my pocket and practically forced it into Kazuki's hand.
よろしく。
Run away without me, I tried to motion to her with my eyes. Damn, it's hard to send full-on messages with your eyes. I don't know if she understood. She nodded reluctantly. Then she slipped past me and headed for the door.
和樹くん、平気？なんなら僕も一緒に行こっか。
Was he watching us? Did he figure us out? His expression was the same as it had been for a while now. It was the same goofy look the students always joked about.
大丈夫ですって。今学校には誰もいないし。先生も何か飲みたいなら、和樹に買ってきてもらったら。
And then I realized that I might have made a mistake. Kazuki's hand was already on the doorknob.
あ、それじゃあ頼もうかな。僕缶コーヒーね。微糖のやつ。わかる？朝用って書いてあるんだけど、赤い色の缶だよ。
Kazuki glanced at me. You're worrying too much about me. He'll figure out that something's wrong. Wakui was rummaging around the inner pocket of his suit.
僕さ、小銭は財布に入れない派なんだよね。あちこちのポケットに直接入れて持ち運ぶんだ。
Bro, this fool gonna pull
そ
out
した
a gun
ら
on us.
財布を落とした時の被害分散にもなるし。あ、お札は別ね。ちゃんと札入れを持ってるよ。
He really was talkative today. How long did it take to search for change?
それにほら、自分でどこにいくら入れたか忘れちゃうとさ、後で再発見した時に少しラッキーって思ったりできるだろう。そういうささやかな喜びが人生には必要なんだよ。
先生、いいから早くお金渡して。僕喉が渇いて仕方ないんですよ。
I got a little aggravated, and my tone was a bit harsh. But I instantly regretted it. If I didn't act calm, Wakui would figure out what I was up to.
悪いね。なかなか見つからなくて。お、あったあった。
Wakui finally took 200 yen out of his pants pocket.
じゃ、よろしく。
Kazuki spread out her hand. It was holding the few coins that I'd given her. Wakui put his hand over hers and dropped 2 100 yen pieces. The coins fell and collided with the coins in Kazuki's hand. And didn't make a sound. Huh? That's weird. This close, I should be able to hear the sound of 2 small pieces of metal colliding. Wakui was rummaging through his pockets again as he opened and closed his mouth. What was he doing? It felt weird. Suddenly I realized why. Wakui was talking to Kazuki, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. Why? I put my finger in my ear to see if it was clogged, and then I noticed something else weird. Normally I'd be able to hear the sound of my fingertip touching my eardrum, but no matter how many times I jammed my finger into the small hole, I didn't hear a sound. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard any other sound for a while either. Why? What was going on? I spoke to Kazuki. Oh no, dude. The sound is completely gone from the game. I thought I said that, but I couldn't hear my own voice. Kazuki didn't respond at all. She was just looking at the coins in her hand as if she was about to cry. Oh no, dude. I have a bad feeling about whatever's going on right now. I feel like we're in some sort of trance. I yelled louder, but it didn't work. Why? This didn't make sense. My hearing was normal a second ago. There was no way I could just go deaf like that, which meant something was going on, but I had no idea what it could be. I tried to tell myself that I might be hallucinating. I closed my lips and stood as still as I could. I listened carefully. It wasn't pure silence. I could hear what sounded like a ringing in my ears. I can kind of hear a ringing in my ears. I think that might be my own ears, though. I could still hear it. How did ringing in your ears work again? Was it really sound in the strictest sense? Was it made by vibrating air? Or was it some kind of supersonic wave? Suddenly, I felt very nauseous, and I opened up my web browser on my phone to run a search. When I read what I found there, I got scared. Stress is said to be one cause, but it's still unknown where exactly in the body it occurs. What the hell? I was sure that modern medicine would have an answer for that. How could they just say that they didn't know? Once I started noticing it, I couldn't ignore the ringing. The constant noise started to seem extremely unpleasant. Why was I hearing this ringing, and nothing else? I looked back at Kazuki. She was holding her ears and looking around frantically. Was it happening to her too? Oh no. I tried yelling. Kazuki didn't respond, but Wakui looked at me. His lips twisted into a grin. Uh-oh. It was him. He was like a totally different person. The face of the lazy, unreliable teacher had changed completely. The easygoing, peaceful smile was gone. That was when I knew. He was an assassin from the committee, just like Nightheart had said. What was happening to me was because of his attack. But how could he be doing that? Was he a psychic too? Okay. Now we're getting some good old RGB going on here. It felt like the ringing was growing louder. It was all I could hear. It kept ringing at the same frequency and never letting up. It was like it was stabbing into my brain. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. There was no point in putting my hands over my ears. The ringing hadn't even been there for that long, but I already felt like I was going crazy. I screamed. I tried yelling as loudly as I could, but it didn't work. No matter how much I howled, I couldn't hear my own voice. Who could have known it would be so stressful not to hear your own voice? I put my hand in my throat and screamed again. My vocal cords were vibrating. I must be speaking. But all I could hear was the noise. Was this just a ringing in my ears anyway? It seemed like endless thunder in the sky. Maybe I was starting to go crazy. Maybe hearing the ringing for so long meant that I couldn't even recognize it as ringing anymore. Or maybe I was just hallucinating. My head started to hurt, maybe. My field of vision kept wavering. I couldn't keep my balance. Even standing up became difficult. It was like standing on the deck of a ship during a storm, excuse me. I fell to my knees, unable to stay up any longer. I begged to hear another sound. I slapped my own body and slammed my smartphone into the ground, desperate to hear any other kind of sound. But it didn't work. Then I felt my phone vibrating and looked at the screen. I had a message. Was it from Kazuki? Maybe she found a solution. I opened it, hopeful. But of course my hopes were immediately crushed. It was from Wakui, not Kazuki. And this is what it said. And they say that in a completely silent environment, a human will go mad within 45 minutes. I looked up. Wakui was looking down at me with a cruel smile on his face. There was a can of coffee in his hands. I wasn't sure when he'd gotten it. He took a slow sip from it and laughed. What happened to Kazuki? I spun my head around desperately looking for her. She was rolled up in a ball by the entrance of the room. She covered her ears with her hands and was shaking. She couldn't escape either. Had Wakui known all along? That we knew who he was and were trying to escape? I thought I could get the initiative, but he'd been laughing at me the whole time. Still, wasn't there anything that could be done about this ringing? I thought it was a constant frequency, but it wasn't. There was a faint rhythm. What was this sound? I wanted to get rid of it somehow. Otherwise, I might really go crazy like Wakui said. Then my phone shook again. It was another message from Wakui. Do you want to know what that sound is? I looked up at Wakui and nodded. He laughed. He seemed truly happy and moved his lips in big, easy-to-read motions. It's the sound of your body. Yeah. It was only then that I realized that I made so much noise, that there were so many different chaotic noises within my own body. It made sense. It was normal for a living creature. My heart beat, my blood vessels contracted, my blood cycled, my cells died and were born. My lungs inhaled air and exhaled carbon dioxide. My organs emitted all kinds of different fluids. My intestines contracted. My nails grew, my hair grew. All of those things made tiny little sounds. Normally you would go through your entire life without hearing the sounds your own body made. But now my sense of hearing shut off. They were overflowing from within me. They were the sounds of my life. But there was no joy in hearing the breath of life so directly. I wasn't trying to make these sounds. It felt like my body wasn't mine. It felt like someone was giving my body orders without asking my permission, and once I started thinking that way, I couldn't stop. My mind and body had separated. There was nothing but the terrifying sounds of life. My own body scared me. I wanted to rip my mind away from this lump of flesh. I wanted to rip off my skin and yank out my lungs, my heart, my intestines, every single organ, every single blood vessel. I screamed in fear, but I couldn't hear myself. Only the chaotic sounds of my body as they played in layered harmony. And since there was nothing else to hear, I was forced to listen. I was forced to imagine which organ was making each sound. The sounds overlapped more and more, a disharmonious noise that bounced off the walls of my skull. I didn't know if it was a real sound and echo, or if I was just hallucinating. My thoughts were swept up in the flood of sound. This didn't make sense. Why was I suffocating in a flood of sound if I couldn't hear? How long was this going to last? The rest of my life? Until I died? I couldn't stand that. Did he say that after 45 minutes I'd go mad? I wasn't even going to last that long. I didn't want to hear this noise for another second. Someone turn it off. Or turn it back on. Oh, my bad. I'll do anything as long as you turn it off. I'd rather die. I wanted to die. Kill me. I crawled along the floor and reached out my hand toward Wakui's feet. Kill me. I begged for death. Kill me. I longed for the silence that awaited beyond it. Kill me. Release me from this sound, please. Kill me. Oh, shit. Suddenly, a sound like shattering glass traveled from my ears to the rest of my body. I could hear my own voice. Honestly, if you realistically went from like hearing nothing to that would have been extremely loud and probably like what would kill you, or at least your eardrums. The sound of my shallow breathing was surprisingly clear. It wasn't just that. The sound of my clothes rustling, the tiny chirping of birds in the distance, the sounds of the wind or the leaves blowing through trees, the sound of a patrol car siren, the sound of Kazuki's pained coughing as she curled up in a ball next to me. I could hear all of those tiny sounds. I could hear every single sound in the world with an abnormal clarity. Sorry, I was getting a drink. That was a lot of talking. My vision was blurry. My head still hurt. But the sound was back. I'd never been so happy in my life to hear all this noise.
邪魔が入ったね.
Wakui spoke calmly as he walked to the windowsill. The glass in the clubroom window was broken. He picked up something off the floor. It was a ball.
高級ね. 偶然ではなさそうだ.
A baseball had come through the window? And that had interrupted Wakui's attack? This was the 5th floor. Who had thrown the ball? The baseball team wasn't practicing outside. And this room didn't even face the baseball diamond anyway. The only people in the school, no, in the whole surrounding area, should have been me, Kazuki, and Wakui.
宮代くんたちに手を出すなら相応の理由を説明しろということかな。やれやれ。 彼女は宮代くんに対して本当に甘いね。
Oh, I know what he's talking about. Wakui was saying something. He didn't seem to be talking to anyone. He wasn't speaking to us. He wasn't on the phone. What was he talking about?
いいよ。今日のところはここまでにしておくよ。宮代くん、和樹くん。悪いが続きはまたにさせてもらうね。
Oh, I'm good, but thanks for the offer. Wakui's voice was gentle, but he didn't even glance down at us as he went to the door.
一つ教えておくけど、逃げられるなんて思わない方がいい。君たちはやりすぎたんだ。委員会は君たち二人を世界の敵として認定した。これは決定事項でね。
Wow.
故にこの地球上のどこへ行こうと、我々は世界規模のネットワークで君たちを捉え続ける。見失うことはないんだ。絶対にね。では、また。気をつけて帰りなさい。
Can anyone in this game actually be trusted? Wakui left, and Kazuki and I were left alone. I could hear Kazuki moan. I could hear her breathing clearly.
和樹、大丈夫か？
I was surprised at my voice. Was this what my voice sounded like? Oh no, dude. I don't like that liquid on the ground. Kazuki was still lying on the ground, shaking her head. Of course she wasn't fine. I looked closer and saw that there was a puddle under her legs. Her skirt was strangely wet, too. She must have peed herself when Wakui had attacked her. That was just how terrifying it was. Why had Wakui let us go? Why had he tortured us instead of just killing us? I didn't know, and I didn't want to think about it. I have an idea. I didn't even have the energy to stand up, but I forced myself to do so anyway. I didn't want to stay here. There was probably nowhere that was safe, but I wanted to get away before Wakui changed his mind. I left Kazuki lean on my shoulder as we left the school. Of course, we saw no one on the way home. October 17th, 2015, Saturday. I don't even know what day it was. It was after 7 o'clock p.m. in the evening, but there wasn't a single train car coming down the Yamanote line. It wasn't just the trains. The whole of Shibuya was a ghost town. There was no light, and nothing moved. The town itself was eerily clean. That was the big difference between now and 6 years ago. Wakui went inside the pedestrian's tunnel under the train tracks, listening to the voices of the monsters howling in the distance. The night wind blew past him, colder than before. Maybe this is all the same day, and now we're just following Wakui. The moonlight didn't reach inside the tunnel, so it was extremely dark. Wakui could sense a lone girl in the darkness.
お待たせ。時間通りかな。
It's been a while since we've seen this, Sarika. The girl he'd summoned moved away from the wall she'd been leaning on, and then stood with her back to the moonlight. Her eyes shone with a strange light that made Wakui shudder.
これ、返しておくよ。ほら。
Wakui tossed the baseball he was holding at the girl. She didn't even try to catch it. Instead, it struck her in the chest and fell to the floor where it bounced several times.
あ、いらない？それとも学校の備品だったかな？
宮代拓と和樹花を攻撃した理由を教えろ。
The girl, Onoe Sarika, said. It wasn't her usual feminine voice. There was an arrogance in it, and that's my dog. Wakui was in a position to deserve her respect, but she showed no sign of it. He didn't like that at all, but didn't feel like bringing it up. The committee, as well as Wakui, its messenger, had decided to respect Sarika's position, at least for as long as their interests were aligned.
僕の返答次第では、君は委員会の敵に回るのかな。君はさっき僕のことを妨害したね。あの行為は委員会が君を排除する理由として十分すぎるほどのものなんだけど。
宮代拓を勝手に殺させはしない。殺そうとするなら理由を聞かせてもらう。その理由次第で こちらは黙認するか、お前たちと手を切るか決める。
黙認ね。まあ確かに君とはそういう協定を結んでいたけれど、それにしても君はいつだって彼のことしか考えてないね。実に潔いよ。
The Committee of 300 was cooperating with Onoe Serika. More precisely, they were allowing her to get away with what she was doing.
理由を教えろ。
Serika stared straight at Wakui. She didn't look away for an instant. Her face was expressionless. It was hard to believe that a teenage girl could be so calm in this situation. Wakui slumped his shoulders in a slightly exaggerated fashion.
我々が問題にしているのは宮代拓ではなく和樹花の方でね。やりすぎたんだよ彼女は。これじゃ6年前の二の舞じゃないか。我々はこの町で粛々と実験を行っていたというのに、ここまで大きな騒ぎを起こされてはね。力をコントロールできないがゆえに彼女の責任だとは一概に言えないが、彼女の妄想がリアルブートしたことが原因なのは確かだ。彼女一人のせいで渋谷の秩序、ひいては世界の秩序までが乱れてしまった。しかも彼女の背後にはあの西条匠がいるとの未確認情報まであってはね。
Yeah, that is actually true. And hey, I was right about his name an episode or so ago. Takumi. So close to the main character's name in this game.
このまま事態が収束しなければギガロマニアックスの存在が世間一般に知られてしまうどころか、人類が和樹花一人の妄想に飲まれる可能性すら出てくる。委員会はビビりすぎという顔をしているね。だがこれは性分だよ。それぐらい慎重にならなければ委員会は今の地位にはいられなかった。とにかく我々は和樹花を世界の敵に認定した。とはいえ彼女は実験対象としては稀有な個体であり、殺すには惜しいというわけでね、委員会の方針は和樹花の心を壊して生け捕りにするってことになったわけ。宮代拓はついでだよ。和樹花と一緒にいたからという理由以上のものはないかな。君との協定もあるしね。殺すつもりはないよ。まあ少し急を据えてやろうと思ったぐらいだ。和樹花を回収したら宮代拓の方は君に返す予定だよ。もっとも君が望むなら殺すこともできるけど、どうする？
Serika thought for a moment and lightly kicked her foot against the wall of the tunnel. The sound echoed down the tunnel.
理由は聞かせてもらった。だから黙認する。
That was her answer.
殺すも生かすも僕に任せるということかな。
そうだ。
いいのかい？
問題ない。
君は徹底的に狂っているな。宮代拓が楽しむためなら宮代拓本人であろうとも犠牲にするとはね。あるいは生まれながらにして価値観が違うのかな。ちなみに僕は残念ながらエンターテイナーではないから君ほどうまくはやれないかもしれない。そこは考慮しといてよ。
Serika ignored his joke. It was clear that she felt discussions were finished.
一つ聞いていいかい？君は宮代拓が死んだらその後はどうするつもりかな？
私にはその後なんてない。
Serika laughed and then turned around to leave.
あ、そう。けなげだね。
If that's what you want to call it.
そこらを化け物が徘徊しているから気をつけて帰るようにね。
Oh, I think she'll be perfectly fine. But Serika didn't even bother looking back.
さて、そういうことならもっと大っぴらに動いてみよっかな。西条匠もついでにあぶり出せればそれに越したことはないけど、とりあえずは和樹花と宮代拓だな。
It would be cool to see like a physical cameo of Takumi. Even so, I've never played Chaos Head. I just think that'd be pretty tight. Wakui took out his phone and dialed a number on his contact list. The phone rang for a while before it connected.
はいもしもし
Oh no.
どうも生徒会顧問の涌井だけど、ちょっと生徒会長に話があるんだよね。いいかな？
That doesn't sound good. Dawn came. We'd spent over 12 hours running with no destination in mind. After Wakui's attack, Kazuki and I had hidden in a Shinsen Love Hotel. All this chaos had turned Shibuya into a ghost town. There were several love hotels in Shinsen that had closed down. We snuck inside one of them and held each other tight, hiding and trying to make as little noise as possible. I knew that it wasn't going to do us much good. It was obvious Wakui knew everything he needed. But even if it was only a difference of a few percentage points in the likelihood of us being found, I wanted to stay somewhere else rather than stupidly going back to the dorm. Of course, spending all my time in one place meant that I had nothing to do but think and worry. He might find us if we stayed here. He may have already found us. He could attack us. He could attack at any minute. The fear became delusions, and the delusions threatened to drive me crazy. So every hour or two, we would hide somewhere else. Since we couldn't get close to Shibuya Station, we went to bookstores, department stores, and McDonald's around the area. They were all closed, so we used Kazuki's D-sword to break the shutter and go inside, and then hide for just a few hours. But no matter how many times we went to a different place, my worry didn't disappear. The power Wakui had shown us was just that overwhelming. It wasn't physical power, it was psychological torture that drained all of your will to resist. Just remembering it made my whole body shrivel up with terror. Of course, I didn't get a wink of sleep. Kazuki was no different. She'd spent the whole time clinging to me and shaking. She was so weak she couldn't even walk on her own. She was physically exhausted, of course, but the psychological exhaustion was worse. She hadn't even tried to say a word since then. I tried to pry her off of me, but she stubbornly kept clinging. So I had no choice but to walk with my arm around her.
Kazuki, ora, tsuita zo.
We'd been heading for a manga cafe. Fortunately, there were plenty of places to hide in Shibuya right now. The shutter was down at the entrance of the building with the manga cafe.
Kazuki, yabutte kure. Na, tanomu yo.
Instead of taking her D-sword out, Kazuki just kept clinging to me. Sorry. I had no choice but to try and physically force the shutter to rise. It didn't work. There was no sign of my power, telekinesis, manifesting itself, and I couldn't find my own D-sword. I didn't want to die, but I was so tired. I had no idea that running in fear for just half a day could be so exhausting. With nothing else to do, I slumped down against the shutter. Still, Kazuki wouldn't get off of me. We probably weren't going to be able to keep running for much longer. Wakui had been quite clear.
一つ教えておくけど、逃げられるなんて思わない方がいい。
Sorry, I was getting another drink. But yes, he did say that. Thinking about the future made me despair. It was up to someone else, whether we lived or died. And that someone else was coming for us soon. Could we escape when he arrived? And if we could, how long could we keep running? We had no future. I even pondered committing suicide. The idea of facing Wakui's psychological attack again scared me more than anything. Maybe someone would come to save us. Suddenly, I heard a sound nearby, and I cringed before I even knew what I was doing. I curled up into a ball to protect my head. I knew there was no point, but my instincts made me do so anyway. But a short while later, I realized it was just the sound of a smartphone, and I gave a deep sigh. It was Kazuki's phone that was ringing, not mine. The sound kept playing, which meant that it was a phone call, not a text message. Kazuki was looking at me with terror in her eyes.
電話誰からだ
The screen said no. It was Kirisu. Kazuki was unsure if she should answer it. If she did, maybe Wakui would go after Kirisu too. She wanted to avoid that probably. But right now we wanted any kind of help we could get. It could be Kirisu, Serika, or Ito, even Nightheart. We just wanted someone to do something. I grabbed the phone out of Kazuki's hands and answered it.
もしもし
おはよう。涌井です。
Yeah, I kinda saw that one coming. Just hearing his voice filled with mine with despair. I was too scared to speak.
おかしいな。和樹くんの電話にかけたはずなんだけど、まあ別に問題ないか。どうせ横に和樹くんもいるんでしょ。
This couldn't be happening. That was Kirisu's name on the screen. So why was I hearing Wakui's voice? I thought for a second, and then the worst occurred to me.
クルスに何をした
おや、もう状況を理解してくれたのかい。頭の回転が速くて助かるよ。
殺したのか
いや、ただこの先はわからないけれどね。
どういうつもりだよ
今日の昼12時に光陽の11階シアターキューブの前で待ち合わせと行こう。
Yes, of course we're gonna meet there.
2人で来てもらえるかい？
行かなかったらクルスを殺すのか
そういうことになるね。いやこっちもいろいろと事後処理が大変なんだ。何の事後処理かって？それはもちろん和樹くんがやらかしたことのだよ。というわけでそっちから顔を出してくれると助かるんだよ。できれば派手にやりたいという上からの意向もあってね。いやもちろんこの騒動をさらに拡大させるつもりはないんだ。むしろ今の渋谷の状況については情報規制を敷くつもりだし。ただ6年くらい前から我々の足元を鬱陶しいネズミが何匹か這い回っていてね。君たちやクルス君はそのネズミをおびき出すための餌というところだ。宮代君についてはそれ以上の役割はないから、時間さえ守ってくれれば何も緊張する必要はないよ。ではよろしく。今日の正午だからね。くれぐれも遅刻しないように。生徒に待たされると先生悲しくなるからさ。
Wakui hung up. What a funny last statement. Oh no. Kirisu had been kidnapped? I looked at the time on the phone. It was past 9. So we had some time.
クルスが涌井に捕まった
Kazuki looked up at me in shock. I told her that if we didn't go to see Wakui at noon, she was going to die.
猶予は3時間もないか
If we went, we were sure to die. There just wasn't enough time left. We didn't even have time to think. I felt like I was about to cry. Yeah, but I stopped myself.
どうしてナノ先輩が
そんなの僕にわかるわけないだろ
I slammed my fist against the shutter in frustration. I knew the answer, of course. I knew it so well that it hurt. This was all my fault. I'd gotten Kazuki and Kirisu involved just to save my own life. What should I do? What was I supposed to do?
選択肢なんてあるわけない
I had no way of fighting against Wakui. Both Kazuki and I were powerless. But if we didn't go to the meeting spot, Kirisu would be killed. It didn't matter whether Wakui intended to keep his promise. Our only choice was to do what he said. But
殺されに来いって言ってるようなものじゃないか
just imagining it made my knees shake too much for me to stand up. My life was going to end soon. It had to be a short life. Or it had been a short life, and I'd never thought it would end like this. Where had things gone wrong?
助けたい のの先輩、助けたい。
Just this once, she didn't say maybe. But it was impossible. She'd seen for herself how scary Wakui was. There was nothing we could do. If we tried to hurt him and pissed him off, he might do something even worse to us. Far better to just let him kill us.
ナイトハルトなら。ナイトハルトなら、なんとかしてくれるかも。
Is it cameo time? Maybe he could. But he always seemed really shady. I couldn't imagine him agreeing to help us like that. Still, we decided to talk to him anyway. There wasn't time to think about it, so we headed straight back to Kazuki's dorm. She loaded up ESO2 on her PC immediately. Nightheart was logged in, like usual. She quickly sent a message to open a chat log. Yo, you're safe? I was sure you were dead. Yeah. I'm still alive. Only for a few more hours, though. Give me the short version. Wakui took a girl from our club. We go to him at noon. Otherwise, she dies. Well, you're fucked. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, dude.
なんだよこの人。
Our lives were at risk here. How could he be so relaxed? I felt like punching the computer screen. What's your plan? Help us. Yeah, I'm sure that'll work out. But I refuse. There's that famous line. What? What? Okay, yeah, we're really getting somewhere here, guys. Like, I can feel it. You monster. Sorry, but I'm not as useful as you guys think I am. I'm a lot less useful than your average normie. I used to be pretty powerful. But at the end of the last fight, I wasn't even human anymore. I gave up my power to come back from that. And now I can't use it anymore. How much of that did you just make up? If you want to accuse me of watching too much anime, go for it. Anyway, Wakui's goal is to get at me. I'm completely powerless, so no way in hell am I going. I've got problems of my own. I can't just drop everything and come to Shibuya. Who are you, really? I'm not important. What's important is Wakui. I told you yesterday that he's an assassin for the Committee of 300, right? He's nothing like the Chaos Child Syndrome patients that showed up after the Shibuya quake. He's more like me. A 100% pure gigalomaniac. He's not as strong as I used to be, but he's still a powerful gigalomaniac. To be honest, you Chaos Child Syndrome patients don't stand a chance. What's Chaos Child Syndrome? Means you're a psychic, too lazy to explain more. So you're basically telling us to die. The Committee of 300 has designated you an enemy of the whole world, you see. So there's no way you can escape. That's what Wakui said too. I don't know if he's going to kill you, but if he gets his hands on you, you're not going to like what happens. You've got three options. You can abandon your friend and run away and buy yourselves another day or two before you get caught. You can surrender to Wakui and beg him, to spare your friend, but in Wakui's case, there's a good chance that he's got nothing to do with that. And your last choice? The odds are incredibly low, but you can fight Wakui and try to turn the tables. Is there a way to fight him? Can we win? The odds are pretty much zero, the same odds as drinking a soda and not burping. But if you can pull it off, you'll have a shot to turn things around.
本当にあるのか?
I mean, it kind of happened in the common route, and I thought we were at a disadvantage. It was hard to tell if Nightheart was serious or joking. But both Kazuki and I were willing to bet on the smallest possible chance. Tell me, what can we do? The sumo stickers. Ah, we haven't seen those in a while. Huh? The sumo stickers. There are a lot of them in Shibuya. Don't you know about them? We looked at one another. This was an amazing coincidence. It felt like there was a faint light shining down on us from above. Did we know about the sumo stickers? That was a stupid question. We knew all about them until a short while ago we were obsessed with them. I know them. I know all about them. Good, that makes things faster. There are basically two types of sumo stickers in Shibuya. You'll use the ones the Committee of 300 put up. Good so far? What's so different about that design? The stickers put up by the committee have the power to weaken gigalomaniacs and chaos child syndrome patients. I do think I got sick looking at them. That's the effect you're looking for. It does nothing to people without power though. And you use the stickers for your own benefit. You weaken Wakui. You slowly, tantalizingly strip off your shirt. You beat Wakui. You put on your shirt and leave. The end. Nice. I'm sure that'll work out perfectly. There's no reason for me to take off my shirt.
いや、ツッコミどころはそこじゃないから。
I think that was just a terrible metaphor. Not even a metaphor, but whatever. Who would have thought the sumo stickers held such a secret? So that was why I felt sick when I saw them. Maybe the Committee of 300 wouldn't expect us to use their sumo stickers against them, but...
問題は一体どうやればいいのかっていうことだ。シール1枚の効果なんてたかが知れてる。せいぜいちょっと気分が悪くなるぐらいじゃないか。それでどうやって涌井みたいな化け物の力を弱体化させられるっていうんだ。
聞いてみる。
What exactly do we do? The only way is to use Kazuki's power, right? It's not gonna be that easy. Yeah, I know. Like I just said, the odds are as good as drinking a soda and not burping. But if you want to be Wakui, you've got to work with what you got. You've got to be willing to take on the whole world. This is your last hope, and it's probably not going to work. Whether you're willing to try it anyway, just because you want to survive, that's up to you, not me. Thanks, man. So we were wasting our time. I'd expected as much. There was no way to use Kazuki's power to pull that off. One of the reasons this had even happened in the first place was that she couldn't control her power. I collapsed to the ground. Giving up made me feel a little better. Hey, I feel better when I give up too. I didn't want to die, of course, but I could at least be calmer than when I was dealing with the fear.
もうしまいだ。僕らどうやっても死ぬんだ。クルスだって見逃してもらえると思う。そんなわけないだろ。何をしたって殺されるさ。どうしようもないんだ。考えてみたら、今のこの渋谷の状況は元を正せば僕のエゴのせいだし、最初から潔く死んでおけばよかったんだよ。そうさ、僕が生きてるのが間違ってるんだ。お前はあの時学校で僕なんか助けなければよかったんだ。
Kazuki punched the wall hard. The sound echoed loudly in the quiet room. I could hear her gritting her teeth.
私の力が大嫌いだけど。
Yeah, that's right. Kazuki was always the type of girl who was open with her emotions. She used to punch the wall all the time when she was playing her game.
でも、私、ノノ先輩、助けたい。
Sorry, I was getting another drink. It's hot, okay?
助けたいよ。
Tears ran down her face, and she told me how she felt.
新聞部、ノノ先輩に誘ってもらって、 すごく嬉しかった。あの部室にいられるの救いだった。のの先輩にほんと感謝してる。だから私助けたい。見捨てたくない。
助けたいって言ったってどうするつもりだよ。どうすることもできないよ。力をコントロールできるのか。できないだろ。できなかったから今こんなことになってるんだろ。
わかってるよ。だけどのの先輩どうなってもいいの。
Well, of course, and I think that's why Takuru is going on his little, not rampage, but his little, I don't know, outburst, I
後のこ
guess?
となんか知らない。考えたくない。今の私のクエストはのの先輩を助けることだけ。
Quest? This wasn't a game. And she was never going to finish that quest unless she sacrificed herself. Once she was done talking, all she did was cry.
カズキってすごい負けず嫌いだな。
She nodded as she rubbed her eyes with the back of her hand. She was aware of that, it seemed. She hated to lose, which is why she was always so serious when she played her games. But would that be enough to make her want to go so far to help another person?
あ、カズキ。なんでお前はあの時僕を助けてくれたんだ。
That is a good question. We're going to look for that answer in the next episode. We're really out of time, or at least I think so. I had to step away like somewhere in the middle of the recording session, so I don't know how long this episode's going to be. Hopefully long enough. Thank you guys for watching. This was an eventful episode. I wasn't expecting things to occur the way they did. It kind of brought things back to the Chaos Child that we're used to experiencing thus far. Or at least that's what I think. Less monsters and more wacky-ass reveals that I would have never expected. Ever. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Again, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like, subscribe, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.